What you dada, what you nanny care.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Grace Thoughts with Chio. And today we have yet another wonderful opportunity to renew our minds by grace. That's basically by reflecting on the things that God has made available to us through grace. So grace is what God has provided. Faith is what takes what God has already provided. So we are positioning ourselves to receive or to take the things that God has made available to us. And there are many. There are literally billions of things that God has given us, and we have not even scratched the surface of the possibilities that are in grace. I believe, for one, that I have not scratched the surface of the things that God has made available to us. And that's why I keep sharing, not because I know everything that God has sufficiently provided or abundantly provided. No, it's because I know there is so much. And if, I can share and help someone else at least get some of what I know, and even in sharing, also receive some of what other people know. It's amazing, totally amazing. It's a wonderful thing. Right, so today we continue our series on praying like Jesus. If you've been following in the past few weeks, we've just been on prayer, and it's all about praying like Jesus, praying for revelation, praying from relationship, praying from proximity, and so on and so forth. We've just been talking about how to pray like Jesus, praying from submission, and so on and so forth. So today we are going to talk about praying from forgiveness. Praying from forgiveness. Many times when people talk about prayer and forgiveness, when they put the two together, it's usually from a condemnatory law-based standpoint, where they say, you didn't receive your prayer, it's the answer to your prayer because you did not forgive, and the Father withheld the answer because you had an unforgiving spirit or an unforgiving attitude, or you performed an unforgiving action. So that's the way we hear it many times. It's very condemnatory. It's very how do I put it? It posits this picture of a terrible God, this monstrous God who is watching and taking and checking. Have you forgiven today? If you've not forgiven, someone, I'm not going to forgive you. I'm going to deny you things. This is the mentality I have heard or seen from those who preach about it. God is just watching your every behavior, your every move, your every thought. And you should be afraid of God because He's watching and He's checking whether you have forgiven. If you have anything or any grudge against anybody, God withholds. But that's not grace. Remember, under grace, prayer is not getting things from God. No, you're not getting things from God. When we talk about answered prayer, we're not saying you made God do something. You cannot make God do something. I can never make God do anything. I cannot tell God what to do. I cannot say, oh God, do this, oh God, do that. No. I know some people, when they have revelations, and their revelations, remember, go through the filter of their minds. And because their minds are not at this level, they say, God said, I'm not going to answer your prayer because of ABC. You have refused to do this, you have refused to do that. And that kind of confuses the minds of many people, because they actually think God is withholding things from them because of their unforgiving attitude, or because they have refused to forgive someone. That's far from God. Prayer takes what God has already given. He has already. So God is not looking at, we talked about praying in 2 times last Was it last week, I think? God is not looking at things in terms of past, present, future. To God, everything is now. Okay? To God, everything is now. So He has already given the answers to your prayer before you even open your mouth. In fact, it is His answer that motivates you and I many times to pray. It is the answer that motivates us. It is the answer that moves us to pray. So when we talk about praying from forgiveness, we're not saying, oh, God is withholding forgiveness because, or withholding an answer because of forgiveness. No, we're saying a totally different thing. And that's what I want to share with you today. All right, let's read Mark chapter 11, verse 25. So that's our verse for today. Mark chapter 11, verse 25. Mark says, and whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father who is in heaven may forgive you your trespasses. And, he says, let me read it again. And whenever you stand praying, forgive if you have anything against anyone, so that your Father also, who is in heaven, may forgive you your trespasses. All right? So someone who is under the law will love this and you see, I knew it, that the reason we have not been forgiven by God is because we are not forgiving. So remember, in the Old Testament, your action prompts God's action. So your action elicits God's reaction. You get a reaction from God. If you fast, pray, do good and all that, then God owes you something. You earn. In the Old Testament, you earn things from God. So people who are under the Old Testament will really love this. But I think mostly because they don't understand it. And if you notice there's no verse 26 in the ESV, but in some other versions that use some later manuscripts, there's an added verse called verse 26, and it says, but if you do not forgive, neither will your Father who is in heaven forgive your trespasses. And one of the reasons that is added is because of this lack of understanding. So the manuscripts are looking at things and they're trying to make sense. They're not just writing what they heard initially, but they're also trying to make sense of what they are hearing. Okay? And sometimes the reason they find themselves trying to make sense of what they are hearing is because they are not paying attention to the context. And that's one of the things we do here. We show you context, and then with the context, you discover that it's so easy to interpret and understand what it's saying. If you go back to verse 22, it says, Jesus answered them, have the faith of God. Okay? Have the faith of God. It doesn't say have faith in God. People now, of course, translations now say have faith in God. But the original manuscript says have the faith of God. That means believe as God believes. Okay? And if you look at the rest, you see that the things he says there are things that only God can say. Like, if whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. So you see, if you believe as God believes, you will speak as God speaks. You will speak as God speaks. You will not doubt as God does not doubt, because God lives by faith. Faith is higher than reason. I have said this many times. Faith, reason is lower in terms of a way of knowing and doing things. Reason, rationality, science is actually lower. Faith, and that's why God doesn't live naturally. God lives by faith. So God's whole life is a faith life. And that's why he tells his children, you have to walk by faith and not by sight. Because that's how you know you are my children. If you walk by sight, then you're not my children. You have to walk by faith. That means you think as I think, you act as I act, you speak as I speak. Now, if you use that context to interpret this, it just makes sense. And it's so easy to understand. Because what Jesus is saying is, When you have the faith of God, you will speak as God speaks. You will not doubt as God does not doubt, but you will also forgive as God forgives. That's what this is all about. You will forgive as God forgives. And that's why you see Jesus's prayers were answered instantly, because Jesus forgave as God forgave. So this is position, it's a matter of positioning. So when you're praying, that's why he says, look at it, says, whenever you stand praying, not that, stand is a position. Tells you that you've got to position yourself correctly when you're praying. And the position of God when God speaks or when God believes, his positioning is a forgiving position. Okay, that's why God can never say anything and it doesn't come to pass. Because his position when he speaks is a position of forgiveness. All right? So God loves everybody. And part of love is forgiveness. So when you can't say, I love you, but I have not forgiven you. That's not love. Okay? So when God speaks from a position of forgiveness. God has nothing. When God showed me this many years ago, and I thank God, that was part of what started my journey of grace. Because God showed me, he says, listen, I have nothing against anybody. I have never had anything against anybody. I didn't understand what that meant. But later on, I began to see that. You see, in the life of Jesus, he had nothing against anybody. His position towards everybody was forgiveness. That's why it was very easy for him to chill with sinners. To hang out with sinners was an easy thing because he didn't have that position of judgment over them. He had a position of forgiveness. And that's why he could tell a sinner, rise up and walk. And the sinner would rise up and walk. The positioning of Jesus was a position of forgiveness. So God is giving you an advantage in prayer when he says to you, position yourself correctly. Be in a position of forgiveness towards everyone. Everyone. This doesn't mean, when I forgive, God is then going to forgive you because I forgave. No. God is just positioning you to get your answers to your prayers. Okay? So if that hasn't been your position, get that into position right now. When you stand to pray, stand in a position of forgiveness towards everyone. Sometimes I do this and I search my mind. Is there someone I'm still thinking about and I'm not standing in forgiveness towards that person. And I just, no. I say, I love this person. They are victims. They don't know what they are doing. And I let it go. It is a mental positioning. Remember, we're doing mind renewal. Okay? So in your spirit, it's all fine. In your spirit, you have forgiven everybody. You're fine in your spirit. You have forgiven everybody. You stand in position of forgiveness in your spirit. But in your mind, many times you are not standing in forgiveness. So you see someone, struggling to pray for maybe a spouse and it's not working. You're struggling to pray for someone in your family, it's not working because you're not standing in forgiveness towards that person. This one is one of the reasons why we struggle more to minister to people who are in our families. Because we have all these small things, bits and bobs here and there that we have against my brother, my sister, my mother, my wife, my husband, my children. You have all those things. Deal with those things at your mental level and see how your prayer, your prayers will be revolutionized in terms of answers. See, the way you pray and the way you relate with people will be totally revolutionized when you position yourself correctly. You position yourself the way God positions himself. So that's why whenever God speaks, what he says comes to pass because he stands in forgiveness towards all people. All people. When people say, sin is the problem, sin is not the problem because God has never had anything against anyone. In fact, when Jesus showed up, this was one of the points he was trying to prove to everybody. God has nothing against you. And that's why when you relate with God as someone, you relate with God by grace, and you relate with God as someone who has nothing against you, you start finding instantaneous answers to your prayers. You find your relationship improves with Him. You find you're no longer sin conscious and guilt ridden and all that, and your relationship with Him is very smooth because you've come to the realization of the truth. He has nothing against you. He's not against you. He's for you. He's on your side. He's actually there to help you. Okay, so position yourself again like God so that you can speak like God, you can act like God, and you can forgive as God forgives. That's what this verse is saying, that you need to be forgiving as God is forgiving. You are blessed.